This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today, we'll feel and experience Altadena, featuring an inspiring interview with Heather Eastwood and Ruslan Abaev, sharing their story of overcoming the devastation of the Eaton Fire.
For me, it's hard to put it into a specific moment because I've been watching the fire come over the mountain for hours that night. So I guess realizing when it was getting too close and the embers started flying around and that fear came over my body, kind of like, wow, this is it. We need to flee. Maybe that's a specific moment that is very clear in my head and still terrifying and so scary.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to experience Altadena? Altadena has always felt like a place suspended in time. Tucked against the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, it has never hurried to keep pace with the sprawling modernity of Los Angeles. Here, streets were lined with century-old oaks. Craftsman bungalows stood as proud reminders of California's artistic past, and grand estates from the golden age of the early 1900s whispered stories of a bygone era. Founded in 1887 by John and Frederick Woodbury, Altadena was envisioned as a rural retreat offering a peaceful alternative to the growing metropolis of Los Angeles. The Woodbury brothers had purchased 937 acres from Benjamin Wilson, one of the region's early pioneers, and began to develop the land. They named the area Altadena, combining Alta, meaning high, with Dena, derived from Pasadena, its neighbor to the south. The Mount Lowe Railway, which brought tourists up the San Gabriel Mountains from 1893 until its decline in the 1930s, was a true testament to the area's unique charm. Altadena soon became known for its grand estates. The historic Zane Grey estate, built in 1907 in Mediterranean Revival style, was once home to the famous Western novelist. Andrew McNally House was originally built for map-making tycoon Andrew McNally in 1887. Altadena Town and Country Club was a private social club since 1910. It was known for its historic clubhouse, scenic grounds, and a range of facilities including dining, golf, tennis, and swimming. One could walk through Altadena's historic neighborhoods and feel the echoes of those who had come before. Pioneers, dreamers, artists, and rebels who sought refuge in this quiet haven just beyond the city's reach. The air carried the scent of eucalyptus and jasmine, and the mountains cast long protective shadows over the town as the sun dipped behind them each evening. Altadena was a sanctuary, a place where history lingered in every brick, every wooden beam, and every winding trail leading into the wild chaparral. And then, on January 7, 2025, the Eaton Fire came. Fueled by fierce winds and an unrelenting drought, the fire roared through the hills like a vengeful spirit, devouring everything in its path. Flames leapt from tree to tree, engulfing historic estates that had stood for over a century. The streets, once so full of character and charm, were now battlegrounds of smoke and embers, as firefighters fought tirelessly to save what they could. But nature had its own plans. Many beloved homes, symbols of Altadena's resilience and heritage, were lost. The pain of watching history burn was indescribable. Generations of memories, painstakingly preserved architecture, and irreplaceable landmarks were gone in a matter of hours. More than 9,000 structures were reduced to ashes, leaving thousands of residents without homes. Their lives upended in an instant. Families lost everything, their treasured heirlooms, the photographs that told their stories, the walls that had sheltered them for decades. The town, once frozen in time, had been violently thrust into an uncertain present, its people left to grapple with loss on an unimaginable scale. But Altadena's story does not end in ashes. The same spirit that built this town, one of great artistry and love for the land, will bring it back. Already the community has begun to heal, coming together with determination to rebuild not just homes, but the very essence of what makes Altadena special. Neighbors help neighbors, historians work to salvage what remains, and architects envision a future that honors the past. I strongly believe that Altadena will rise again, stronger, more cherished than ever. For those who have walked its shaded avenues, who have marveled at its timeless beauty, and who have felt its quiet magic, there is no doubt. The fire may have taken so much, but it did not take Altadena's soul. And here we are. Welcome to Altadena. It is so special to have Heather Eastwood and Ruslan Abaev here with me. Heather and Ruslan are recent Altadena residents and first-time home buyers. They both grew up in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. Heather as an LA native with childhood roots in Hawaii, and Ruslan as an immigrant from post-Soviet Russia. Having lived in LA for the past 32 years, Ruslan now considers it home. Both work in STEM, Heather as a scientist and Ruslan in IT. After years of searching for a special place to call home, they finally found it in Altadena. They were drawn to its natural beauty, community spirit, and unique character. Heather's love for wildlife and Ruslan's appreciation for mountain life made Altadena the perfect place for them to settle. Today, Heather and Ruslan will share their story of resilience and triumph as they overcame the devastation of the Eaton Fire. Hello, Ruslan and Heather.
Hello.
Hi, Masha.
Oh my God, I'm so honored to have you as my guest today. Your story is quite remarkable, and you're very, very special people to me. So thank you so much for finding the time and the strength to be with me today.
Of course.
Thank you so much for having us.
So, guys, when you were looking for a home among all the various areas in Los Angeles, you were specifically drawn to charming and quaint Altadena. What actually drew you to this neighborhood, and what did it mean to you to find this home?
So we've been window shopping for a home for the past 10 years. We lived in various parts of Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley in the past. And we got more serious after COVID-19 happened. We actually moved during that time. We had to move and rented a house in the Sunland Tahunga area. So it was more in a mountainous area, fresher air, nice homes, not as busy, and we really like that about that area. And Altadena is about 20 minutes away at the foothills of the same mountains, and actually even more deeper in the hills. So when we've known about Pasadena and Altadena for many years, but mainly explore Pasadena, not as much Altadena as it is more residential. And when we started exploring it, looking for a home, we love the area. We love the nature here, the unique homes, old style homes, variety of different homes, old style, unique, charming homes. There are a lot of artistic style homes. There are a lot of artistic people live in this neighborhood in Altadena as well. So the people, the quaint neighborhoods, charming neighborhoods, the little mom and pop businesses, those are some of the things that definitely drew us to Altadena, as well as its proximity to downtown Hollywood and other locations that are convenient for us.
I too was impressed with the mountains and the nature, the mature trees. Also the people. They really have pride in the community, and I thought that was very important. And their houses almost represent them. Their homes were very unique and special. There's a lot of history here, buildings over 100 years old architecture. And that was very interesting to me. I have an appreciation for that.
Yes, yes. And I remember when this house was not even on the market yet, and I saw the picture of just the facade, and it was such a charming mid-century modern, and I thought, oh my God, it has the name of Heather and Ruslan on it. Like, it has to be their home.
Yeah. The architecture was perfect. That's one of my favorites, actually, is the mid-century modern, and just to find something that fit our style in LA and in our price range and in a cool area. It was really challenging. And then to find this, it was just perfect. And being on the private street with a really large lot, just couldn't have asked for more.
And the house was, beautiful, like I said, beautiful architecture, and it was recently remodeled and refreshed. So they kept a lot of all of the aesthetics of the house that make it special, and it made it even more special. So when we first saw this, it was a little bit out of our budget, but we wanted to make it work because we've been looking for so long, and this fits what we were looking for perfectly.
Right, right. And in a way, the house is so close to everything else, like, stores and community and wherever you need to go. And then you still feel as if you are in the middle of nowhere because you're surrounded by greenery and you barely see any people around you. So it felt like a perfect retreat, right?
It does. It feels like, since we're so high up the mountain, we're basically back up against the mountain, our street, our home, that it feels like we're living in a forest. Like this, like, you go to places in Big Bear. This would be like a house that you would see in Big Bear or Arrowhead, up in the hills in the forest. So that gave us that feel. And yes, just drive down maybe 10 minutes into the neighborhood, and you have all the stores, all the amenities, cafes, and all the necessities that we need. So that was very special for us.
And on top of it, you do have this absolutely charming view of the downtown skyline.
Exactly, and it's a reminder that the city is just right there, hand reach away, and here we are, where it's quiet. We have birds, we have animals. It's wonderful.
Yes, yes. And I actually remember Ruslan posting the photos of skyline literally early in the morning, late at night, in the middle of the day. So because it had a different feel at different times of the day, and I could feel from the photos how treasured it was by you.
I still take those photos. There's a little spot in the driveway where there's a little tree kind of frames downtown. So I find this spot and I just take pictures whenever I see downtown looking special or different. And it's always fun to see it pop up in my photos. And yeah, it definitely brings a smile to my face too.
Yes. So Okay, guys, you find this sanctuary that, you were looking for, like you mentioned, 10 years, and it's the perfect home for you. You love everything about it. You move in, you live there for just a little bit over 3 months, and then on Tuesday night, January 7th, everything changes dramatically. So, is there maybe a specific moment that still plays in your mind from that night?
For me, it's hard to put it into a specific moment because I've been watching the fire come over the mountain for hours that night. So I guess realizing when it was getting too close and the embers started flying around and that fear came over my body, kind of like, wow, this is it. We need to flee. Maybe that's a specific moment that is very clear in my head and still terrifying and so scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, actually that day, the January 7th, it started for us early in the morning with the crazy winds. So they were expecting, the Weather Channel was saying that they were expecting crazy winds, life-threatening conditions almost, and that so January 7th in the morning, that we were woken up by 80 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts, and just branches banging, our neighbor's garage door was banging. It's just lots of loud noises, and these gusts were very scary. Later in that day, Edison, our power company, they decided to shut off power at 2 p.m. For safety reasons. So we've been without power that day, and Heather was at work. I went to run some errands, went about my day. It was the beginning of the year, January 7th, fresh start. So just getting busy and getting the year going. Heather gets home later that evening, and our friends tell us that there's a fire that started in Eaton Canyon, not too far away from us, but it was going towards them in Sierra Madre. And so we started watching the app. Remind you, we were kind of high up in the hills, so our reception wasn't that great, and we had no power. Heather got home at 6. I got home a little bit later from rain errands around 8, and we were just sitting in the dark with whatever cell phone reception we had, and just trying to watch the fire, to communicate with our friends and family who were in other areas watching the fire with the news and everything. And the whole evening, they were basically just saying, "Oh, the fire is not going your way. The fire is going east. The winds are blowing it east." And we kept on waiting and seeing that evening. And we kept on. There's about 100 yards up our street. We get a better view of the mountain and down into the canyon a little bit. So we kept on going up to that spot the whole night, the whole evening, to watch where the fire was, how far it was, and just kind of patiently waiting in the darkness. We did pack up a few things of ours, and the around 2:30 when we drove up to this lookout point 100 yards away from our home, and the fire was in the canyon, and we could feel the flame, the heat from the flames. We turned right around, ran back home, and decided 5 more minutes, pack up a few last things, and let's get the hell out of here. And yeah, as we were leaving, there was ambers flying down our street at the bottom of our driveway, and yeah, we barely felt like we barely made it out. There was some embers, smoke coming down our street when we were leaving. I think the fire wrapped around the ranch behind our property and started burning into the neighborhood already. And so maybe there was some parts of the neighborhood starting to burn that we were seeing when we were leaving that night.
Right. So you said 2:30 a.m. So did you not receive any evacuation warning?
No, we did not receive any evacuation warnings. I believe that night. I believe maybe we did receive something around 3:30 or 4 a.m. saying that our area was under evacuation
But
go.
after that time, it was already way too late.
Yeah.
Homes on our street had already burnt by then, but we had left.
Wow. So what was it like driving away from your home in the middle of the night?
Yeah, it was pretty scary, sort of accepting that we might not see it again, but also just so scared and trying to get out because there's really only one way out. It's a street that only has an entrance on one side. So did not want to wait until it was too late and there might not be a road to drive out on. So a lot of thoughts racing through our mind, but just getting out safe was the priority at that moment.
And probably everything like on each side of the road was already burning at that time.
So we're pretty much up against the mountain. We didn't see stuff on the roads burning just yet because
Mhm.
we left because the fire was coming from the east, and when we left, we went south and then we went west. So we
Okay.
went more towards Lincoln Avenue. We took Loma Alta and Lincoln Avenue. These are some of the streets in the neighborhood, and then we took Lincoln all the way down. And then once we were about maybe 10 minutes, and we took both of our cars. We got on the cell phone as soon as we could get reception, and we were talking through this whole time while we were driving away, and we were just where we were driving. There was no more fire, but about we drove for about maybe 3-4 miles, about 10 minutes or so, until we finally pulled over into some random business parking lot and just like, what do we do now? Because
Right.
when we fled our home, we were in the flight, or was it, I forget how this thing goes, but fight or flight, and we basically were flying at that time. We were just escaping. So once that feeling kind of went down a little bit, and we pulled over in the parking lot, we're just like, okay, we just have our cars packed with some of the personal things and memorabilia. What do we do now? Thankfully, Heather's cousin, who lives in Pasadena, they were up at 3:34 in the morning because they have kids and they were scared of this fire as well. So they said, "Come on over." So we went over to their house, and we're there till about 6. Yeah, we're there all night, all morning, until they evacuate at 6:30. They got a tier 2 evacuation that they had to leave, that they were warned, but they didn't necessarily have to leave. They left because they have two little girls, so they went to family in Tarzana. But we ended up staying with the husband, with Heather's cousin, at the house, trying to figure out what he was going to do, what we were going to do, and yeah.
Right. So after this like night of terror, right? Like being completely like shaken down and like scared, and probably didn't even get a moment of sleep that night. So the next morning, you probably tried to get back, right? And were you able to drive up to the house to see what's happening, like if it's still standing? So what was your journey like the next day?
Yeah, we stayed up all night. We tried to try taking a little nap, and that's when the family had to evacuate. So we were, up at 6 a.m. We were just, all right. Well, decided to stay up. Heather's cousin Nicholas, he actually had to go to work that day, and so he was getting ready for work. We decided around 9 a.m. to go see if we can get to our house, and we started driving from Pasadena, trying to get to north up towards the mountains to Altadena. And we got to a street called Woodbury, and that street is about 2 miles south of our house. And there was black smoke towards the mountain. There were chaos. There were some fire trucks, sheriffs. There were vehicles everywhere. We saw a burned down vehicle already on that street, and so we decided to turn back around, go wait out in Pasadena for a little bit, try to get breakfast or something. So we just went and did that. We realized we didn't have any toiletries either. We forgot to grab our toiletries when we left, and so we went to Target, did some, whatever we could do to waste time, I guess. And around finally at 12:30 that day, 1 p.m., we saw that the black smoke cleared. So we decided to try and drive up to the mountains and towards our house. And so since the fire came from east, I decided to go a little bit more east, close to like Lake Avenue and Marengo. And we started driving up those streets. The black smoke towards the mountain was already clearing. The smoke was going south, and we were trying to head north. And there was a lot of down trees because remember, we had up to 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and
Mhm.
they created a lot of damage before even the fire. And in addition to with the fire too, there were broken tree branches. They were falling over trees, power lines. Power poles were still on fire. We were trying to get up. It was like a war zone driving through the neighborhood, trying to get back up to our house. And we saw some other cars were also driving slowly, some trucks trying to zigzag their way through the neighborhood. So we started following some cars driving around down wires and poles, and even seeing streets being blocked by debris. Fires still happening, smoke everywhere. There was big fires, smaller fires, gas burning. And then when we finally got through to the street Loma Alta, which runs at the foothills of the mountain, we saw a little bit of blue sky. So that gave us a little bit of hope. We were able to get through towards our neighborhood. And when we were driving up the streets that lead up to our house, there's a street called McNally, which has about 20 homes, which had about 20 homes on it. Every single home on that street was burned down.
Oh my God.
And then leading up to our street, private street, the entrance to it, we drive up and we see that the neighbor's property is gone, both of the neighbors at the beginning. And as we're driving up our street, there's a downed tree, of course, blocking the street. So we had to pull over. We haven't gotten to our house yet. We pull over, we start trying to move the tree, and it took Heather and I about 10 minutes just to move the tree branch for our cars to pass. And when we cleared it, Heather said, screw it, let's just run. So we started running up the hill towards our house, and first thing we see is our neighbor's house, and it was still standing. So we were like, holy moly. And we get to the bottom of our driveway, and we see our home is still standing, and Heather just broke down and started crying. It was so surreal to see it still standing there. When we were leaving that night, I honestly did not think that we would come back to it, with the way the fire was going and with the way the fire was in the canyon, and to see it still standing there miraculously, that was truly a miracle. We saw still fires, still small burns all around our property. Our fence was still burning. The wooden logs that go around some of the landscaping, those were still burning. So we had no water, no power, no gas. Actually, gas was still working. No water, no power. And we just started putting out the fires. I grabbed a shovel from the garage and started putting out these fires around the property with just dirt, with whatever I could. We checked on our neighbor's house. His garage burned down. And then we let our neighbors, and then another neighbor up our street, their house also survived. So 3 out of 11 houses on our street survived.
Wow. This is absolutely crazy. Heather, what did you feel like when you saw that your house was still standing?
Yeah, it was pretty surreal considering how much of the neighborhood that we had just driven through and had seen it completely leveled. So I had already expected that our house was going to have the same fate. So yeah, once we saw it standing, it just was shocking, really. It just was so hard to comprehend. Why were we spared and everyone else had burned down? So yeah, very, very confusing, conflicting feelings. Obviously very happy that we didn't lose everything, but also confused at the same time.
It's almost like you were given a gift of your house still standing, but you had already seen so many other houses just completely gone, and like this crazy devastation all around as you were just like even trying to get to your house.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of emotions.
Yes. And yeah, I can see how these emotions can be pretty conflicting, like first happiness, but then on the other hand, even guilt, as you mentioned.
Yes, for sure.
Wow. This is so wild. So guys, after that, you actually chose to stay in the house without water, electricity, and gas for like weeks and weeks. So how did you actually make it work? What was maybe the hardest part of those weeks? And maybe you could also share anything unexpectedly beautiful or meaningful about that time.
Yeah. Oh, it was very challenging, of course. You don't realize how easy life is with our modern amenities of having water, electricity, gas. So yeah, it was extremely hard. It was also hard just not knowing what was to come, being in limbo. A couple of days later, they had locked down Altadena. So we were sort of stuck in a way. I mean, we were free to go, but if you go, you wouldn't be able to come back. So there was just a lot of confusion. Should we leave? But there's still concerns about, there were small fires and winds would pick up. So there's concerns that the house could still burn down. There was concerns about looting. The area was pretty unstable with all of the homes burnt down and the lack of electricity. These were just very hard times. It was an experience, to say the least. I guess something that I learned about myself is just staying strong, staying resilient, seeing how it all plays out without leaving the home. We'd already come so far, so didn't want to leave the home at that point.
Yes.
Yes, and like Heather was saying, that's we came and we saw the house, we're standing, so we were relieved to see our home standing, and it was a huge feeling of relief. But at the same time, we felt sadness for our neighborhood, for all of our neighbors who lost their homes, who lost their livelihoods, lost so much, life's worth. And so when we saw it and we started trying to save it. We worked. This was our first home purchase. We just bought it last year, and we been saving up our whole life to buy a home, and we found this home, not just a house, a true home for us. So, and also last year had my mother passed away. So buying this home meant something for us to start our home together. Heather and I also got married last year after being together for 15 years. So this was going to be a start of our new life together. So
Yes.
when we saw it still standing, that was important for us to save it from the fires. And an hour after we got back to our house, we saw a random car drive up on our private street, looking very shady. There were two guys in there wearing baseball hats and hoods, just looking very suspicious. And I got a picture of their car, and later on showed them to the sheriffs. They ran the license plate, saw that the car was out of Rialto. Looked like it was stolen. So they said, yeah, it's good that you're staying diligent. You guys saved your home and staying back and protecting it. So I felt that we had to stay back and protect it from looters, fires. Some people might say, oh, it wasn't about stuff for us. It wasn't, things can be replaced. We definitely understand that. That's why we fled the night before when the real danger came. But, to after the house survived, after everything we've been through, to have looters go in and, try to ruffle through we still had a lot of family memorabilia and belongings in our house, to rummage through that. And then, or, God forbid, one of these small burns reignite and get our house, and we would lose our house that way. Because like I said, 2 days after the fire came through, the government, they called in National Guard to close off the area. So if we left the area, we wouldn't be able to come back, even if we showed that we are residents, that we lived there. That was a strict rule for 2 weeks that they had. And
Yes.
we chose to stay and just protect our home, try to, start doing any little cleanup that we could around the landscape, the fallen down fences, the burnt down fences. There was, and still is, tons and tons of cleanup to do. So we just faced with what was in front of us, and I got to working, trying to get our life back together a little bit. We started reaching out. We had some supplies here, thankfully.
So you did. So that was my next question. So you did have water and you did have food, right?
Yes. So we had the Tuesday of the fire. I actually went to Costco to go grocery shopping. So we had tons of water. We had some microwavable food, frozen foods, things like that. Now, however, the challenge was that we didn't have any power. And so we tried to keep the food in the cold. We had water, so we could wash things, drinkable water, cooking water, things like that. But our friends and family started reaching out, seeing if we needed anything. And right away, our friends brought us a generator. They brought us some gasoline, propane, a little portable camping stove so we could cook, flashlights, lanterns, things like that. We already had a bunch of flashlights, but they brought some lanterns. And basically with that, we were able to start getting by. We were able to, with the generator, we were able to power our refrigerator, cool it down twice a day. We wouldn't keep the generator running all night, or we could only use it a couple hours at a time throughout the day. And that helped us get by. Also, all of the first responders that did start coming through, the fire department, sheriff, church support groups were started coming through. Firemen started checking up on us, driving up and down our street every day. They would camp out at the top of our street, fighting small burns. They told us if we saw anything to let them know, which we definitely did. And the fire, the winds did pick back up a couple of times, and they reignited some of these small burns because some of these trees were still charring at the root for 10, 11, 12 days after the fires came through. And I actually saw a reignite at our neighbor's property right across the street 8 days after the fire.
Wow.
That was, the anxiety was, we were very, very anxious during that time, especially at night. Like going to sleep, I would go do a check of the perimeter. One night I saw some fire burning, a small reignite burn in our backyard. So I went and let the firemen know. They came by and put it out, but this was at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. So definitely staying up late. The fire made me personally very anxious. Once the winds came through, and they weren't even crazy wind gusts like we got the Tuesday, but the winds made me feel very anxious as well. And but during that time, I just was, during that time, I just basically tried to face my fears and do what's in front of us as much as I could do it. Try to, save our homes, save the properties, save anything, and just focus on that.
Right, right. Guys, how would you say this experience changed you, if it did?
Yeah, I would say it most definitely did. I am not one who enjoys camping, anything close to that. And I think this has definitely thrown me into that type of setting. So I tapped into a bit more of the survivalist skills of getting through on the bare minimum. So that was a big change. And then maybe just realizing like what's really important, fleeing the fire, the importance of life, and everything else can be replaced. That's different mindset than I had before, but it's very true. It's a reality. And there's just a simplicity to that. Just trying to stay alive.
Yes. What about you, Ruslan?
So this experience further taught me and confirmed that I'm a survivor and a fighter. And just to face whatever's in front of me and work at the issue, at the problem, trying to figure things out. This experience, I was really amazed by this, how people came together during this experience, whether it was the first responders, firefighters, sheriffs, the church, the community, people in the community, people in Los Angeles, people outside of Los Angeles. I had a friend reaching out from Italy who heard about this fire, checking if we were okay. Had friends from all over California, nearby states, Arizona, checking up on us, asking how can they help? Everybody's asking, how can we help? How can we get you guys food, water? There was the community and the people just were so amazing. There was no shortage of food, I feel like, even within our closed zone that the National Guard wasn't letting us through. There were set up food. Church would buy food. Church group even came by our house and brought us food and propane and check up on us, check up on Heather. We prayed with people. People prayed for us. People prayed with us. Our neighbors. It's amazing how our neighbors who lost their house are strong. They want to come back. They want to rebuild. They've been asking if we needed any help. They've been thankful that we've been staying back and keep an eye on things on our street. And so this experience definitely taught me that, survivor, if you need to figure things out, just go out there. I wasn't sitting around the home all day. We were working, and then you need to go find some supplies or other things, some help, some questions. I would go out there into the neighborhood and go talk to the various companies, the power company, the gas, water, employees and workers, trying to figure out when infrastructure was going to be replaced for us and things like that.
Yes, yes. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing your story. I remember being in touch with you throughout those weeks that you were like in the zone when, you couldn't get in, couldn't get out, and being very, very concerned about you. And your story really shows, the power of resilience and strength. And in some way, like you are modern day heroes, and you absolutely made it work for your little family, for the home that you saved. I know that you actually sprayed it with water before you left. And then I also know that you cleaned up all the landscaping when you moved in. So it might have also helped to preserve your home from the fire. And I think it is because of people like you that the community of Altadena will be rebuilt. And right now is a very challenging time still, and there is so much work to do. But with your strength and with your support and with your love that you have home, that you have for the area of Altadena, I think it's all possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, we're definitely looking forward to our area, neighborhood, city being rebuilt. Altadena 2.0.
Yes.
Stronger, better, smarter.
Stronger, better, smarter. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story. And I'm here for you anytime you need me.
Thank you so much, Masha.
Thank you, Masha.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to feel and experience Altadena with my special guests, Heather Eastwood and Ruslan Abaev. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California and check out my website www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It's an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we'll explore the essence of home, belonging, and transformation through the lens of art. We'll uncover how tiny stitches can hold big dreams, how communities can be built from the simplest materials, and how the past and future merge in soft, colorful forms. Join me as we step into this world of artistry and hope. So looking forward to seeing you.
In the Mood for California. Feel the soul of Old Hollywood.